God, our creator of all there is and ever shall be, we ask you to guide our council this evening to make the wisest decision for our city. We ask you to bless all our city workers, our councilmen and women. We ask you to please bless our city with extra blessings that we so do need. For this we are thankful. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call.
Mayor Dale Mason,
Here.
Vice Mayor Terrence Rowe,
Here.
Councilwoman Jenny Sorrell,
Here.
Councilman William Dittmer,
Here.
Councilman Richard Bloom,
Here.
City Attorney James Matthew,
Here.
City Manager Vincent Lupo.
Here.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve council minutes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, we have the general public. I have no one signed up. Anyone interested in speaking? Good enough. We'll give it to the city manager.
Mayor, I'd like to simply pass out current project list through August. Next council meeting, end of next council meeting, we'll get you one through September. Those are all the active projects as of this moment. I'd also like to pass out the August water statistics for council. You'll note that our water production is holding steady. Our water quality is advancing. Our water recovery is advancing, and our costs are decreasing because of the recovered water. One other thing I would like to request, if I might, that everyone keep in their prayers Miss Phyllis Gray, who is hospitalized, and we hope on the mend, but she is in a hospital, so we would kindly ask our people who know Phyllis to keep her in our prayers. Aside from that, that's all I have to say, Mayor.
Okay, bring it to council. Comments, thoughts?
Well, if nobody else has anything, I had to call the city manager this week because of concerns of myself and citizens that brought it to my attention that the playground was being put in and that the location of it is problematic. So I don't know if any of you have had time or been out there to look at it. I'd like to know what your thoughts are. I personally feel, and so do many of the people I talk to, feel that it will interrupt the things that we want to do at that park socially. So I believe it's going to have to be moved. And I'm not thrilled about that, and I'm sure that the people that did the hard work of putting it in are not excited about it. But I think we need to have a little more interaction so that these kind of things don't happen, because I was not aware of the location, and I don't know how that slipped by us. I take the responsibility upon myself for not knowing where this was going to be located. I assumed, and we all know what happens when you assume. So I'd like to know what the rest of the council thinks on that.
Is your issues, one of the issues is for events? Is that what your concerns are, or because it's in the direct sunlight, or what was your concerns with that, Terry? That it need to be more in a shaded area? Is that what you're looking for, or is it because it's going to interrupt things that we have going on?
There is, if I may, there part and parcel of this project, and it's not completed yet, is shade sections and shade material to provide shade. Interestingly enough, this project dates back to around 2015, when applications were made for grants for the project, and it was located there. Also, you might be interested to knowing, I was informed today by one of our older employees that there was a park located at that exact spot at one point in time, and then it was moved to the current location, the current existing playground location, in hopes that that area will be utilized for some other time. And this all was back in the late 90s, early 2000. Subsequently, in 2015, when the grants were applied for, council at that time approved that location as part of the grant process, and that's where it was located because it was high and close to the restrooms, and for many other reasons. It has been installed. It sits in some pretty heavy concrete bases in order to protect it from rocking. We haven't moved forward yet because we have prepared it for the mulch, the special rubber mulch, and after that gets placed, the shade screens will be placed, and the ADA accessible swing will be installed.
Was there any FTC requirements or locations or anything?
FCT also agreed to that location. It was submitted to FCT.
Okay.
Specifically as it was submitted during the grant process. So both the grantors and FCT have concurred in that location specifically.
So I'll go back to my original question with Terry. Is your concern the sunlight or lack of shade in the area, or because
All
you
of
think
the
it's going
above.
to affect events?
I don't know. You know, this is something that council probably should have had nailed down by now, but I mean, we had talked about having entertainment in the park. We talked about doing different things, movies, whatever, and the pavilion, as it sits, is going to be blocked by this, for one. Two, we're going to have to go to great extent to make sure that this is shaded so the kids don't get burned on this, because there is not a lick of shade there. I'm sure the FCT would allow us to put it almost anywhere if we petition them to put it somewhere else. And I question the location because I don't remember it ever coming to council that was where we were going to put it. And like I said, I take responsibility myself for some of this because I didn't know.
None of us asked, so.
Okay, I'm just gonna say,
Well, where would you suggest?
I'm getting ready to.
Oh, you are.
Yes, I'm gonna, anywhere but where it is. Now, if the FCT already approved this location where it is currently, they're not gonna have a problem with it. Right now, if you were to have any events, you're gonna be looking over these playground. I mean, I think this is horrible, and I don't remember ever seeing it. If it was, you know, Vince is doing his job, putting it where it was supposed to go. We need to do our job in saying, this does not fit the park as we, or as at least as I foresee it. So I would say, tear down the old one, put it where the old one is, and if it costs a few dollars, it just has to. And I don't usually do that.
Jocelyn, you can't tear down the old one.
We tried that. We tried to see if we could take the current playground down and replace it there, but it's not an eligible expense in the grant, so we did try that.
It's what?
It's not an eligible expenditure, the way that the grant is set up. That would be a replacement of a playground instead of a new construction, and we couldn't get that funded through this particular grant.
Okay, well then move it over about half space and put it there. I know there's a place to put this that, was shaded is one thing. This is horrible. This is horrible. It's like, are we going to Disney World with nothing else? So, move it over. Move it that way, move it that way. I'm sure you can find, can it not touch the old one?
Well, Council, we'll come back with some other possible locations and the costs involved in relocating the existing structure. If that's what council wants us to do, we're more than happy to try and come up with some potential other locations. But again, with respect to the design of this park, this play area, there are shade elements involved in its construction to provide adequate shade. I don't believe that eventually shade will be the issue. The issue is the location and the potential disruption of a section of this area. I think that's the real main concern. Obviously, the safety of the children, by virtue of the equipment and shade and everything else taken into consideration. We'll come back with some other potential locations and see what we can possibly do along with the costs associated with relocation. And the council can give us their direction and their advice. Again, this was approved by, this location specifically was approved by council back in 2015, I believe, when the grant was submitted and approved by the grantor. So that's how it occurred. That's that location that was selected and approved by the then sitting council. Having said all of that, obviously we'll be more than happy to come back with the information that you're requesting and see if you can concur in an alternate location.
I don't know how everybody else feels, but if you just look at where it was, even if we can't infringe, there's plenty of shade there. It meets the requirements of being near the bathrooms, and it isn't in the way.
Every
Any other
location that we bring to you, Mayor, will have the pros and cons so you can make a legitimate selection.
Okay. Do you need a motion for this?
No, sir, I do not.
I
Okay.
have one question.
Sir.
Do we have to separate the playgrounds, or can they be together?
No, you could, go ahead.
It has to be a completely new construction to be funded by the grant. So we did try to see if we could get it close to the other playground, and they didn't seem to approve that. But we can try again.
Well,
and
I just was wondering if we could keep, if we have to keep them separate, if the handicapped playground has to be separate from the regular one.
No, that's
It
not
has
the
to be
issue.
clearly a
It's
new
not.
construction. That's mainly their
It's
issue.
their
Yeah.
argument is the new construction.
Correct.
So we were planning on keeping the other playground as well?
The other, yes, absolutely, that stays in, yeah. That's already in, we've just refurbished a lot of that.
Well, I'd put it side by side and you're done.
We'll see what we can do.
Chris, I apologize to you and to the workers, because I know it was a beautiful job you put in there, and I know it's not gonna be easy if we have to move this thing. Just thank them for us.
Any other thoughts or reminiscences?
One other thing, Mayor, while I'm on a roll here.
Okay.
There was a survey done along Ritchie Road extension. This is another problematic thing for the citizens in the area, and I have been receiving many calls from not only the neighborhood, but from the people in the apartments, from the people in the condos. Nobody in my neighborhood wants that road to go through. It is going to create a nightmare as far as they're concerned with traffic. And so I would like to make a motion that any further movement in the direction of developing or implementing or creating a roadway on the Ritchie Drive roadway to cease being considered, because I think if we do that, we can put our efforts forth in trying to find another way out to the Walmart side, where I believe We should have 2 accesses and 2 entrances, 2 exits, but I don't believe this is going to help that situation. And the area just north of it, I know there's talk about developing that, but that is registered wetland. And I will fight to the death to keep that from being developed. It was
talking
not
about
supposed to be
the-
developed when I moved here. They told me that that fight had already been done and that it would never be developed because there were 3 sinkholes in there and that was wetland, registered, and it is. I
Where,
looked it up.
are you talking about?
Cramen property,
What?
the Cramen property, to the right of Ritchie Drive Extension. Between,
The north side?
yes,
Just
North of the
north
Ridge
of the condos and apartments.
Well, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I, personally, Mr. Lupo and I have talked about another alternative that is kind of needs to be under covers at this point, but I don't think we can sacrifice health or, you know, the possibility of not being able to evacuate for that reason. It seems like, I don't know, that's up to this council.
Evacuation is going to be a nightmare anyway. And personally, I don't think these developments should have gone forward because we do not have the egresses that we need for evacuation. We have the light at Walmart. It is a nightmare already. It is only going to get worse. And I don't care what kind of road you put in there. You got to go out that exit. So there is the problem. It's either that or down at the Speedway station, and that is a nightmare as well.
Adding Avila Bay to that mix, the amount of traffic increase, I think we almost have to have 2. Ritchie Bay and an alternative once that development's put in there, because you could have so many more vehicles coming in.
let me try and, if I may, let me try and help council paint a specific picture for you. First of all, the only work that's been done was with respect to a potential extension of Ritchie Drive was a survey to know what our property is, where it is, and whether or not we can, in fact, develop a road there. We don't know that for a fact. So we had to undertake a survey to tell us what is ours, what isn't ours, how wide, how long, because there are very specific requirements with respect to the construction of a road, where we are at least 2 years, maybe 3 years from the potential construction of a potential Ritchie Drive extension. If you just go through the mechanics, the development of Avila Bay was a pre-approved product by former councils where we had no, this council, hands were absolutely tied. So that project, if it would go forward, would have gone forward, or this community would have suffered massive amounts of damage suits. So unfortunately, if you look at it that way, that project was previously approved by former councils, and our hands are tied with respect to that development. There are ongoing, and I'm not going to speak more to the issue, but there are ongoing avenues and negotiations with respect to the potential for another egress from that area. And again, I'm not going to speak to it publicly at this time because there are issues that we're working on. With respect to what was presented to you earlier was the traffic patterns and the plans, and it started to allude to some of the issues that Councilman Dittmer was speaking to. But all of these are part and parcel of future growth and future development. If in fact the Cramen project moves forward, if it can move forward legally, whether or not there are sinkholes or whatever those circumstances are, there are a whole series of different negotiations that would occur with respect to responsibility of a developer, with respect to impacts, what they have to do, what they don't have to do, what they can do. So those become part of the the developmental scenario that may occur. So what I would like to reassure council, and I don't really need a motion, I understand exactly what council's concerns are. I can simply assure council that there will be no imminent movement forward on any Ritchie Drive construction. And that there are other negotiations ongoing to possibly address some of the other concerns of the neighbors, both immediate neighbors and long-distance neighbors. So I hope that allays some of your fears.
It doesn't, because this council didn't even know that we were gonna have a survey. So I have citizens calling me up, scene surveying people out there, and asking me, well, what is going on? And this is what I'm talking about. This council has got to get control. We have to know what's going on. I look like a complete idiot that day when I don't even know survey people are out there. I have no idea what they're out there for. And then they're telling me later that this is for this development, for this road. Folks, I'm telling you, you want trouble, put that road in. Owen, my neighbor, will be at that podium and he will be on fire because this road will end into his living room. No one in that neighborhood, now, others don't live there. The people that live around that area do not want that road in there or had been in there already. We've got to get control, folks. We've got to have some control. We have to know what's going on. We have to be told what's going on. We are not being communicated with it. And I apologize for this, Mr. Lupo, but we have to have more input from you. We have to know what's going on. And this is why this happens and why roads happens and these things are going forward. We are not being considered. And this is not the way to have a council move the city forward in being blind to what's going forward. I can't be more direct, and I don't like having to be confrontational on this. But these are a couple things that I think are a red flag to a problem that we are facing here with communication and direction.
Well,
I'll leave it at that.
If I may, please. With all due respect, Mr. O, this issue with respect to an extension of Ritchie Road has been brought before this council on at least 3 occasions that I can remember, spoken to in detail by the traffic analysis team who came here and laid out exactly what was the potential and how the road would flow if it was to be developed. Part and parcel of the issue has to be with future development beyond just Avila Bay. There's 2 other projects coming up further down the road. So with respect to that, I think we can involve council as we properly should on all of these events. I think we have, perhaps not efficiently or effectively enough. And if that's true, I apologize for that, and I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. But with respect to the surveys, it's just a simple function of government. We've run surveys there. We've run surveys at other sections of our city. It's just a normal function. It doesn't mean that we're going to be doing construction. It's a necessity to learn what we have to do or what we can do or what we're able to do. Again, I'll make a better effort, I'll make a stronger effort to ensure that council is more adequately informed, and I apologize if there's any misunderstandings here. But I am your creature, our administration is your creature, and we will do exactly what you tell us to do.
So let me get this clear. The city paid for that survey.
Of course.
Without direction from council, because I know when we discussed this road, I brought many concerns about the neighbors and their concerns. So I don't see where you got direction from me to move forward on this project. And I'm sorry, but I really feel this, again, is where we're having problems.
I might not disagree with that, but I do believe this was well discussed.
I don't. I disagree with that
Past.
completely.
We also discussed in the point that I actually inquired, did we know if we had enough room to extend Ritchie plus have
That's-
the hike and bike path
Correct.
along the same route? And I know that was one of the concerns, because I know that's been a pet project of Terry's, the hike and bike, for a long time. So I know we did bring this up. Now, I understand what Terry's saying about the actual, but I don't think we vote on things like
You did-
what surveys are happening in the city. And I'm the junior here, so I mean, if I'm, well.
Sorry, you can't have that title.
That's baby doll.
Just 'cause you're young.
Yeah, yeah, I'm an age.
There are actually functions that occur every day during the daily administration of this government that council has voted on extemporaneously by virtue of the budget that has authorized us to do certain activities. We try and bring forward those issues that are of deep concern to the general public and to council, and to try and obtain council's advice and direction. But there are just basic kinds of things that go on. The acquisition of certain materials, of certain vehicles, all pre-approved during council meetings. The boundary surveys for specific reasons, as an extension of the hike and bike trail, knowing exactly what we can or can't do for future planning. So those kinds of issues are daily events that normally occur. If there is an issue, a hot button issue, I try and bring it to council. We try and keep council informed. I'm sure that there are questions that occur. Our public works people are out doing something, and someone might take exception to what they're doing or don't know what they're doing, but it's a daily function. Again, I'll try to improve our level of communication with council, particularly on sensitive issues.
Terry, I think we would be remiss if we didn't at least look into this, but how many are in Avila Bay? How many?
110 units.
So figure it at, what, 2.8 or 2.3?
2 point.
Anyway, say
yeah.
220. If there's 220 extra vehicles, and we did have this traffic study.
So the difference here is
Wait,
that
wait,
they
I'm
go
not
from.
finished, Mr. Rowe, I'm not finished. If there's 220 more coming in, where else can they come from? They have to come from Bay, correct? Okay, how far back is Bay gonna get backed up with that many more people coming in, where I'm not for this or against it, but if we can ameliorate the problem, it does allow everybody in Avila Bay and the north of the city an entrance without going around and plugging Bay Boulevard.
Look, the extension
I'm
of.
not saying I'm for it, Terry. I'm just saying we have to keep open mind.
An extension of Ritchie Drive may be an entirely undoable, not doable project, period. We don't know. We didn't know. There are telephone poles going right down the center of almost down the center of that stretch of ground. So part and parcel of what we had to do was simply make a determination. Could we put nothing more than an extension of the hike and bike trail? At one point in time, Mr. Muse and I talked about using a linear strip park because there'd be nothing else to be done. And as part of that consideration, got out to do a survey to find out what we did own or did not own, if for no other reason to make the extension of the hike and bike trail. So that's just part and parcel of everyday life here in the city, what we can and can't do, obtaining knowledge and information. I still, to this day, because we haven't received the results of that survey, understand whether or not we can put a road in. So I want to allay the fears of the community that tomorrow morning you're going to see trucks out there. That's a if it were to occur after council concurred in the expenditures and everything else that's involved, that's a 2 to 3 year process.
Is there a way, do you know yet, that you could have a show road where it turns so you don't have to go on to the?
I don't know exactly what the property is I can't give an answer.
We don't have the survey.
We don't have the survey in yet. So I can't answer that question.
So
As
we're
I
at a
said-
stopping point then anyway, so Terry's,
We would have ordered a survey anyway, because we didn't have the information.
Exactly.
And we
But-
discussed the Ritchie Road extension when we talked about the traffic thing. We were all here for that.
and we have a possible alternative in the works anyway.
Yes, we do, sir.
So I guess it's kind of,
So it's
as
an
long
It
as
may be a
we-
moot
Information
issue.
It
It may
may-
wind up
may
being
not.
nothing more than an
Right.
extension of the bike and hike trail
It may
or a
be.
small linear park, as Mr. Music suggested.
Well, again, am telling you what my neighbors tell me. And I don't want to seem self-serving in this because it's in my neighborhood. I would fight just as hard if the neighborhood was on the south side, the east side, or somewhere else. I'm telling you, from what my neighbors have told me, I will not support a road through there. I don't think it's going to help your traffic problem. Your traffic is still going to back up. And Bay Boulevard is still going to back up because all the traffic will be coming up Ritchie Road and blocking people from coming out off of Bay. So we got a problem. And the best problem is to direct that exit out to the east. And that is my solution. It is where we should put our total focus. This is what we should be driving for, not even considering putting this road down through there. This has been something that's been talked about for years, and because other people realized that it was a nightmare coming in, dead ending into a side street is stupidity at its best. So
Excuse
just,
me.
so I go on record here. I have my motion. I'll see if I get a second. If not, I'll continue to fight for the neighborhood because this is what they want, and I will invite them to come and tell you how they feel.
I would like to hear them. I would really like to hear them on that, because they haven't even discussed anything like that with me on that, and I'd be happy to talk to them about it. A survey is just an information gathering. It's not it's not in stone.
Well,
And
it's very
and
funny
it's
'cause
my
it-
neighborhood also.
It was Pete
But it's
and,
fine.
and Bill, who you both know very well, were telling me they are totally against this, so I don't know how someone didn't tell you this, but
Mr. Mayor.
They're not the whole neighborhood. They're just two opinions.
they may be, but there's others. Denny across the
Excuse
street
me.
called me from the condos and from the apartments, asking me, please, don't let that happen. So there's many, many people out there who do not want this, and I'm sure Olin doesn't either.
Councilman.
Thank you. Are you finished? I'm done for the moment.
Thank God.
And this may seem like a very, very stupid question, but what, you mentioned to these, is there an alternative?
We have been working to try and develop an alternate route from that project, either through or adjacent to Walmart. If you've ever dealt with Walmart, as many of us here have, it is an extremely difficult and arduous task. I speak from experience when I initially negotiated with Walmart in their home office to get them here originally. Okay, so, and we are doing that now. We are attempting to find two alternate avenues. Some of the discussions involve the state, some of the discussions involve Walmart. I really prefer not to go into detail because there are certain issues. Because there are certain issues that are involved. I recognize the predicament that this community has been placed in because of a previous decision to allow that development, but we're stuck with it now. And all we're trying to do is to come up with alternates that work, that will alleviate the issue. Part of that discussion had to be because it's glaring, the potential extension of Ritchie Drive. That was a potential. Again, if the Kramer property were to be developed, that's a whole different issue with respect to what they would do, what they would have to do, who would pay for what. The one thing I would prefer not to do is to spend city money where a developer can pick up the tab, and that's part of the issues. We did not have that alternative with respect to Avila Bay because the project was basically already approved by former councils. But there are two alternatives that we are seriously working on to reduce the potential necessity of the utilization of Ritchie Drive if it could be used. So
Now-
yes, we're working diligently on it.
And I'd just like to say, the 220 people or whoever that are gonna be moving up into Avila Bay, I think we would be remiss if we didn't have at least have explored a plan to evacuate them. I mean, we're voting on some neighbors of yours, and I understand how seriously you feel about it. But these people are not having a vote right now, and they're gonna be in that jam. I do believe Ritchie Drive will help. I don't know to what extent, I guess we can get another survey or whatever. But at this point, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I just have one more question. Without this Ritchie Drive extension,
Yes, sir.
what do those folks in Avila Bay do?
They come right
Come
straight
right
down
down
and
to
they,
Old
Bay
Post to
Boulevard.
Bay.
Old Post to Bay?
yes, sir. There is no alternative
There's
at
no
this point.
alternative.
Another 100 yards.
Okay. So without the
But
Ritchie
they
Road
can go out
extension,
this
it's
way
old-
and they
they're
go
gonna
out
come
this
down
way.
Old Post to Bay
All
Boulevard?
the way, and yes, sir.
Okay, okay. And you don't want Ritchie Boulevard, is that correct?
I do not, and
You'd rather have them come down Old Post to Bay?
Councilman?
I was just curious, I wanted to get clarification.
Okay.
this neighborhood was set up the way it was. The people moved in there, they didn't have a road, they realized this is gonna be a quagmire. I don't know there's a good solution, but my solution is find and push. If you have to forcibly connect on the east side through the Walmart parking lot and head out that way, that keeps them completely out of the neighborhood. That's where the focus is, that's what I'm pushing for, and that is what I believe is the solution, which is not much of a solution because we're still gonna be backed up at the Ridge Road light. But it's the best alternative, rather than trying to run all these people down a road with the expense and everything else and irritating the entire neighborhood because of the traffic. I've already got a lot of traffic going up and down that street. It's amazing how much comes and goes just to Brasher Park. So we've got a lot already. We're gonna have a lot more. If we can find a way to get half of those people out, and I think, I would guess, that if they had that eastern access, that they would use that more because it takes them straight out of their neighborhood, right out of their subdivision.
But
Enough
we don't
said.
have an eastern ave.
It seems that somebody evidently
We're
wants
working
this
on it,
road,
okay?
and I don't. So I'm
Okay.
gonna leave my motion on
Motion, repeat, please.
to stop any further development or consideration of a development of a road along Ritchie Drive extension.
Second.
You looking for a second?
Okay.
I'll second it for him.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Did you want to speak?
Sandra Spalding, 8612 Green Street. When I first moved here, Ritchie Road was a road there. People used to drive there all the time. They used to cut down that street. Then there was something, someone said, well, it's private property. No, it wasn't private property, it was city's property, on and on. It went on. Then they put that wall up there. That wall was not there. I used to use that road all the time, so did we all. In fact, there was a cash and carry. All right, with the old town hall, there was a cash and carry there. I used to go to cash and carry, come back, take Ritchie Road down to Bay Boulevard. Not Bay, Old Post Road. It was a street. It wasn't paved, it was a dirt road. It's a paper road on the map, so it's always been a road. And once they put that little wall up, of course, we couldn't do that anymore. I'm gonna leave you with that.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Nay. Fails 3-2. Okay.
Well,
You got me. Where are we? Oh, we're still at council. Other things? Anyone? Well, I would just have to tell you that the Massive Muse reef is underway. We are trying to build a reef, get a permit to build a reef. Okay, we'll go on now at this point.
where are we at?
Consent.
Consent agenda,
Consent
do I have a
agenda?
motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Now we get down to the nitty gritty, health insurance. Good luck.
Good evening, council. This is Kathleen Sullivan, First Florida Insurance Brokers, 100 South Ashley Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. And along with me, I have
Angie Browder, the First Florida Insurance Broker.
Okay.
So first and foremost, I want to thank the council for your dedication for the city, for leaving your family members every evening. The meetings are scheduled, and for the good work. And we are here tonight to present your health insurance renewal, health, dental, your full employee benefits package. And it is our honor to serve the city as well in a very difficult market, to say the least. If you read any of the newspapers and what's happening in Washington, D.C., it's the hottest topic today. So we're happy to present the results, and I'm going to have my colleague, Angie Browder, talk about the results that we have tonight, and I'll pitch in and help.
Good evening. We are currently, the city's plan is through United Healthcare, and they have been in place for 2 years. Last year, there was a 54% increase, and this year, they came in with a 65% increase. About 10% is due to trend, so all groups will receive that, and there was about 40% due to high claims. So we sent it to the market to Humana, Cigna, and Blue Cross and Aetna. Of those, Aetna didn't participate. They declined to quote. United Healthcare, again, sent some alternative plans, but even if you change the plan designs, increase deductibles, it still was going to be probably 45 to 55% increase. We did receive a quote from Humana, but they were not competitive. So we're going to focus on the Florida Blue quote, and it's actually good news. So they proposed 2 plans that are similar. If you're on the 3rd page, the medical options and the premiums, I've highlighted in yellow the difference in the plans. Did you want me to go through that in detail? No? Okay. Some of it, it might be more copay, but for the majority, it's a better benefit on the Florida Blue. And they initially came in with a 22% increase versus the 65. And then we sent the dental, and they proposed on the dental, and they proposed almost a 6% reduction when United Healthcare had a 6% increase. So due to, if we move the medical and dental to Florida Blue, you get an additional package savings discount. So overall, if you move the dental along with the medical, it brings the medical down to 19.7% increase.
Do you have the numbers of
Ye-
what we spent last year and how much
Yes.
was,
So for medical, the annual premium was $398,000. With the renewal, it would have been $656,000 annually. And with the Florida Blue alternate, it brings it to $486,000.
no, what I just like to get in my head is, of all the people that we had seen by doctors or whatever, how much money was spent versus how much money we spent to get that?
Claims.
Yeah, so what United shared with us, your medical loss ratio was your pure claims versus the premium that they collected. So for the $398,000 that they billed the city, they said they paid out double in claims. So for every for every dollar that they took in, they paid $2 in or double in claims.
So they lost money?
They lost money, yes, and they lost money according to them, and based on that renewal package. So what we know is when an insurance company takes the maximum load that they're allowed to apply to an employer group based on your class, so you're in the segment for rating from 50 to 99. So these rates are filed with the Florida OIR, and so the maximum they can charge the city is 65%. And when we looked at the alternative quotes that United had, because they say, okay, if you keep the same plan designs, it's gonna cost you this, so 65% more, or that would have cost, your bottom line budget impact would have been $258,000. But they give you, maybe 20 different plans that you could look at. And the plan alternatives were just a nominal increase. So in every way, they did not want to renew the account. And by law, so one good thing about the Affordable Care Act is a health insurance company has to renew you. They cannot, automatically decline you, but there is a rate cap. So when it comes to budgeting, if you want to budget to the maximum rate cap for next year, it would be 65%. So what Angie had said is that we went out to market, and we know that there's been a consolidation of health insurance plans. They're all buying one another. So today, the market's much smaller. Years past, maybe we had 9 players, right? Now you've got 4. And of the 4, we got declinations from basically 3. We got, thankfully, Florida Blue. They came out and said, no, we see this employer group in a different way. We see the glass as half full, not half empty. And so we were able to get a quote, and through putting multiple lines with Florida Blue by taking the dental, which is currently with United, and getting comparable dental plans, moving it to Florida Blue, we were able to get what they call package credit savings, which saves the city about $10,000, or to me, I like to look at it on a per employee per month number. That's about a $14 PEPM credit. So,
10 crowns.
Good news is, so good or bad, the benefit, as a broker, is we go out to the full market and look at every option that's out there for the city and take your employee census. They look at your rate history, and unfortunately, they ask for your current renewal from your carrier partner. So there's some shadow pricing that's done. Some just automatically look at that, but I think Florida Blue had some higher reserves, and they were in a position to, acquire some business, so we got that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have a question too. Go ahead, Rich.
Let me just finish my
Okay.
non-train of thought, maybe. Of what the city spent, Jim probably asked you every question on this. Of what the city spent on dental versus what the employees cashed in, so to speak.
So you want to
Equal.
know what
how
Yeah, I
much it
wanna
costs.
know how much, did they use it, or is it one of those, you get one free cleaning and $1,000 deductible and buy?
Yeah.
Did you get utilization?
No, unfortunately, for fully insured in this market segment, they do not provide claims report
For dental.
for dental.
Yeah.
So we don't know how much we used, or,
And medical, they normally don't either. They just kind of told us that off record.
we're supposed to believe that they lost money?
No, we did get it, and we did get a report, but they normally don't provide that.
Okay, maybe not.
So, just some basic numbers. With United, the premium was $398,000 last year?
Correct.
And what is the premium this year with Florida Blue?
486.
486. Now, the 398 last year, was that HMO or PPO?
Combined.
So you have both plans for the employees of the city?
Correct, they had to,
They have a choice?
yes.
The majority are enrolled in the HMO.
In the HMO? Okay. And they had the dental plan last year?
Correct.
And how much was that premium?
The premium was about $30,000, and it's gonna be about $27,800 this year with Florida Blue.
Okay. Now, are these the plans from United last year to Florida Blue this year? Are they,
The same benefits.
they're the same, the
Yes.
deductibles are
And,
the same for that?
and if
out-of-pocket
anything, it's,
and-
the medical plan, it's richer. There's only one copay that's just a hair bit different, but everything is more member-friendly. So one thing that was important last year for Mr. Lupo was for his employees, because we know it's a hard market trying to recruit. Unemployment numbers are low, so to recruit employees to work for the city. So this past year was the first year that the city was able to offer a program where the employees did not have to pay anything if they wanted to enroll in medical, dental, vision, so those 4 plans. So it was a zero cost sharing for the employee only. And then if they wanted to add their dependents, they could do that, and that cost was on there. And last year, we, in order to mitigate that 54% rate increase from United, we offered what was called a base plan offering, which was an HMO. And then if the employees wanted to keep the PPO plan that they had prior, they could do that. But the city's cost-sharing agreement was on that base plan. And ironically, Mr. Bloom, you asked the right question. Of the HMO, how many people enrolled in it? So 51 of your 55 employees enrolled in the HMO, and only 4 took the PPO. So it was a good strategy, and it was positive from a recruitment perspective and taking care of the employees. And lastly, Mayor, you were asking another great question is, are the employees, doing their preventative care? It's kind of like changing the oil in the cars or the trucks that the city has, or all of us. Are we going in for that preventative care visit? And, that's something that maybe we could take back and make a presentation down the road. But if there was a wellness, if the city gave us a bucket of money or some sort of an incentive package that we could give some sort of incentives for employees to make sure that they're going in for their annual well visit, that they're going in for their dental cleaning. Because we know there's data that sometimes just going in for that cleaning, they can, I think it's like very small number, but it's less than 10%. Sometimes they find cancer by just doing that oral exam. So,
God, we can't afford them to find much, can we?
No, but you're asking the right questions. It's just, a difficult market. So I didn't think I'd be sitting in front of the council and being excited about a 19% increase, but.
Well, I can assure you it hasn't passed my inspection that the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance industry both send pretty women to get their job done.
I do
We-
have another question too.
I'm sorry?
I said that
I have a question too.
Well, can I finish?
I'm
I think she-
I'm-
I-
oh,
I
I'm
didn't
sorry,
get-
I'm
I
sorry.
didn't even
I
get
didn't mean,
finished.
I didn't,
You're killing me.
I get on to a,
One of the
Like pretty
things,
women.
Yeah.
No, that was very nice, Mr. Mayor.
well, one of the things that disturbs me, and all of us experience it, but it's got to be a huge hardship on the employees, is the deductibles, the amount that they have to come out of reach to come out of pocket, or before the insurance kicks in.
Well,
And
they have co-pays on most of the services, so only if you get major diagnostic like a PET scan or an MRI or a CAT scan, or you have outpatient or inpatient surgery, is your deductible going to apply.
yeah, but deductibles are, aren't they out-of-pocket costs are $4,000 to $8,000 on the HMO plan?
Well, you have $1,000 deductible, and then and $3,000 for a family. The out-of-pocket is the maximum you'll be out of pocket. All your co-pays apply to that out-of-pocket, so you're never going to spend more than $4,000. And this is a very rich plan.
That's not bad, that $4,000. Now, the $1,000 deductible for the HMO, when you hit when an employee hits $1,000, that's 100% covered by Florida Blue?
No,
No.
4,000 is the maximum financial risk exposure for that individual. If they're enrolling their family or
Family
spouse, it would
plan.
be 8,000. So, but what Angie was saying is, it's a, I would call it gentle plan design, because at the point of service, so if an employee today goes to get outpatient surgery, their cost sharing is $350. So even if that outpatient surgery, and your data from United, they said your outpatient surgery utilization was 2,600% higher than United's book of business. So that's a trend. More people are going outpatient, your employees are. On the United plan design, the HMO, they had to pay a 20 or 40% cost share after that deductible. So this past year, employees paid $1,000 right off the bat, and then their cost sharing up to $4,000 was 20 to 40% of that bill. So if it was a $10,000 bill at that outpatient surgery center, first $1,000 was on them, then the $9,000 that was left, let's say they paid 20% of that, to a maximum of $4,000. So this year, at least for your staff, you know, we're getting a bit better bang for the dollar. So the plan design is richer, but I still agree, $1,000 on a low, you know, or the income, you know, Florida low. So,
Do all the deductibles go towards that?
yeah, so that's one positive thing of the Affordable Care Act. In the past, you didn't get copay credit. Like when you went to the primary doctor, you went to your pharmacy, you paid a couple dollars, didn't count. So every dollar that you share, that you might be paying along the way, it all rolls up, so that Florida Blue is saying the most, as of November 1st till the end of October next year, an employee at the city of Port Richey would pay is $4,000 out of their pocket. I have some other municipal clients that have funds. I don't know if the city has it, but, you know, if anybody's in a difficult position, that, you know, we could nominate them, and there's a fund to help the family cover that deductible. But, you know, just from a plan design, that's how it works.
All right, thank you.
And what Jim had asked me to do, and I think this will answer your questions about the financial impact to the city, is if you move the medical with a 22% increase and not the dental, the increase to the city per employee per month would be $123.74. The monthly increase would be $7,176, and the annual increase would be $86,123. If you move both the medical and dental, then the increase to the city for the per employee per month would be $109, $63.53 monthly, and $76,000 annually.
And then, Mr. Bloom, since we're on plan designs, on the dental plan, the annual plan maximum.
That would be doctor, by the way.
Pardon me?
That would be Dr. Bloom.
Oh,
Dr.
Dr. Bloom.
Yes.
Dr. Bloom.
It is Dr. Massey.
They're in double trouble tonight, they're both doctors.
Doctor and Councilman Bloom. So the good news on the dental, it's a richer. It's a richer plan design. So it's a richer plan design on the dental for the employees, and the cost is less. Plus, from an administrative perspective, it will be easier if you have one carrier partner where you're running one consolidated bill, so it will reduce the administrative burden for the city staff.
Could,
So obviously, we're recommending that you move the benefits to Florida Blue for the medical and dental. The vision, we did not get competitive bids, and Florida Blue was honest, and they said that the
Oh.
implementation was not a great,
Yeah,
smooth
it's not-
process.
They're self-insured, but it's worth it.
They did not increase the vision with United Healthcare, so we'd recommend to move the medical and the dental to Florida Blue and leave the vision with United Healthcare.
okay, did you
Yeah,
get-
I did have a question. We were at 398,000 last year, and you said that they paid out claims, basically doubling that, almost $800,000 in claims. Yet Florida Blue is gonna charge us premium of $400,000+ in the assumption that did we have an excessively high claim this year? Are they just gambling that we're gonna be far less than that this year?
No, there are high.
This year was very high claims for us as a city? Okay, so that's why they're taking the gamble of why they're only gonna charge us a 400+ on a possible $800,000.
Yeah, Councilman Dittmer, you're correct. So it depends on the senior management of the insurance company. Sometimes in Florida Blue, for example, they are required to release some reserves. So it may be a combination of that. There could be a change in their underwriting development. Their plans could be performing better in Pasco County, and as a result of that, they were able to have preferred rates. The trend when Angie said that the way they develop a rate, each health insurance company has a standard medical trend on their book of business. So United's, it was 10% this past year. Florida Blue may have had a better performance on their book. So it's a number of factors that they put in.
It just seems like a strange gamble to me.
And, well, you know, but you know, you kind of have to take the money and run today.
No, that-
And
just seems like, I just thought maybe our claims were so excessive, that's why they went to the 65% on our previous.
They
But
lost money
but
last
Florida
year and
Blue
again.
is gambling that we took the hit up front, and our claims are gonna drop this year
correct. Mhm.
Yes,
by a huge amount.
Yeah.
that's right.
And, you know, we have employers that, you know, much larger. In the past, you could park yourself with a health insurance company, and there were some benefits and synergies everybody got 3 to 5 years. We're seeing, just like the city, no different, every 1, 2, or 3 years, sometimes you're just forced to move because of unreasonable rates, and, you know, you take a gamble. But, you know, Florida Blue, let's face it, is not a gamble. I mean, they're
It's like car
a
insurance.
very solid partner,
Please.
good plan design.
On the whole, United Healthcare, if we stayed with them, was gonna cost us $650,000 this year.
656.
Yes. Mhm.
656. If we go with Florida Blue, it's gonna cost us 486. We're just not gonna have vision.
You're gonna have vision, it's just gonna stay with United Healthcare.
Okay, so we're gonna have to pay for the
Yeah.
vision on that. But it seems to me like Florida Blue is offering a lot nicer, kinder, out-of-pocket package than United Health, so it doesn't seem like it's a no-brainer to me that we go with Florida Blue.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve employee health insurance plan recommended by the First Florida Insurance Brokers.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Would the public like to speak to this? Okay, I'm just gonna point out to the council, this is a $123 a month increase, i.e. raise to the employee.
No, it is
Yeah,
not.
Not a
it's
raise, sir. No,
No,
sir.
It's a raise.
Is it money that they
It's
would
not
have
a
to
raise,
pay?
sir.
It's a benefit.
It's a benefit, not a
We,
raise.
we don't have to talk, these
Okay.
things,
I don't
it's
think.
more
I don't
money.
think it's correct.
Mayor, before we take the vote, staff?
And we have no choice. I mean, I understand.
You're the one we're insuring. Are you comfortable with this plan?
Yeah, but
Are
it's
you
not an
familiar
increase
with
in-
it?
It's not an increase in the
Chris,
cost.
I'm asking you too. Have you heard any scuttlebutt? Everybody's happy with it?
Right. Mhm.
All right.
We don't want anybody unhappy.
Correct.
Except the taxpayers. Okay. Keep forgetting who's
The cost
paying
of
the
doing
bill.
business.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
With
you.
my arm behind my back.
Thank you.
Love you. Nice, presentation. Thank you very much.
What are we doing?
I don't have any.
I don't know, but every time you vote on raises, remember,
It's not a raise.
fees come in. It's $123 a month more.
Well, we're gonna pay more.
Okay. What are you,
Sir?
a Democrat?
No, no, God forbid.
What are we
A
on next?
Democrat.
Wastewater, I guess.
If it pleases council, council expressed some interest at the last meeting about a potential to develop a wastewater treatment plant. After carefully analyzing the potential, I can assure council that the costs to this community would be in the $40 to $50 million range to establish such a large facility. The $2 million that I quote here is simply for basic nuts and bolts, has nothing to do with the development, operation of the program, the operators themselves, the licenses involved, the construction of the lines coming and the lines going, the actual location. It is a daunting process, let alone just getting through all of the impact statements that will be required. An absolute analysis would be done by professional companies if that is what council prefers, and that can be rather expensive to have a full-blown report and analysis done, which takes in many of those considerations. And my recommendation to council is that at this stage in this city's life that we continue the process that we have. The costs are just daunting. And that's really my suggestion, is that at this stage, we just leave it alone unless council wants a full-blown professional evaluation by an engineering company who does specifically that. That's the issue.
So at the last council meeting, we have voted for a feasibility study on this, and what would be the cost of that study? Do you have any idea? Maybe that would influence the way things we would move.
The
Just for
cost of
study.
the cost of a feasibility study, depending upon the amount of detail involved, would start in the $25,000 minimum range and go up to about $100,000. It's a daunting process. Yeah. $25,000, $50,000 to $100,000.
The alternative is to pay Newport Ritchie $750,000 to $1 million a year for the disposal.
That's a pass-through, yes, sir. It is a pass-through. We take a small percentage of that.
Just the employees alone required certified waste management people?
Correct, yes, sir. Each one
Yes.
must have a senior license. There's a license involvement. They must be more than a day's rotational shift. The process is absolutely amazing, and I would advise anyone who even would like to consider it, just simply take a look at any filtration operation anywhere in the state, any city, any community, and you'll begin to understand the amount of complexity that's involved, more so than water production and distribution. way more.
Well, that was my thought. I mean, if you save so much money, you know, with not purchasing water, was there a way to do it on the back end, so to speak?
The initial.
It doesn't sound like it
No.
wouldn't be feasible.
No, sir, the initial purchases and acquisition of the lines, placement of the lines, all of the permitting involved in it is just astronomical. You would be bonding beyond your capacity.
Okay, well, when I looked it up, it was a lot cheaper than that, but government has a way. Okay, does anybody want to do a study? Faced with the general fact that we're probably gonna,
Maybe a little research first.
I think a little research and
Yeah, maybe a little research first, and maybe bring it back at a later date.
Sure.
Just for.
okay.
We can do that.
And we can do that as well. The council can help, because the staff is, I guess, burdened. All right, we're at wastewater issues, passing on to
Dog park.
dog park. I like.
Okay, the city of Port Richey proposed to install a 50-foot by 64-foot chain link fence for a dog enjoyment area at the northeast corner of Waterfront Park. The area will be equipped with benches, ramps, and a water station. Signage that details the rules of the dog enjoyment area will be posted at the entrance. The primary purpose of the dog enjoyment area is to allow dogs to run free without being on a leash. The estimated cost of the park is approximately $8,000, similar in cost to the dog enjoyment center that is adjacent to City Hall. There is a photo on the next page indicating where that site would be. Again, please understand that it's not to scale, but just to give you an idea of where the location is. We examined other locations as was suggested at the last meeting, and those locations would adversely impact the environment. They're low, probably the lowest part of the entire park area, and would cause real problems. This site was also approved by FCT, and with council's approval, we'll move forward if they approve it.
I did go out the south side of the park where was suggested, is you could see the high water lines of where that water is. A lot of that section of the area is wet all the time. Bill's shaking his head, so yeah, it stays wet over there a lot. The south side. If you came in the main gate and you made a left,
Right.
that side there,
This is it over here.
it stays very
It's right
wet
there, corner.
over there. It's a low spot for sure.
Okay.
It's out of the way.
Yeah, but Phil, I mean, surely we can fill it a little.
No, this is fine over here, no problem.
This is fine. What is Will say?
Over
Somebody
here,
has
on this
suggested
other
a different
end.
location.
Oh, okay.
And that
Okay.
location, which would be south or left after you enter the
Correct.
gate, is low, and it stays wet.
Now, if you all look at this and imagine the dog park being there, you can see the old playground, and just between the two, the new one.
That's not to scale, far from, it's not to scale, but we just put it there so you would understand where it's
Well, I
physically
understand, but
located.
if you look at where that thing is and you draw another non-to-scale one, you have that, and this will be much littler.
Yeah, but that's the most
Pretty good
ideal
point.
location, sure.
All right. Run a railroad. Anyone else want to speak?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Explain that to LCT. My problem with this is that when we have the events in the park, this is where we have primary parking. We have enough problem with parking already. I see that location be problematic, so as much as I'd like a dog park in there, I can't support it in that area, and if we can't put it anywhere else.
Well, Terry, I've thought the same thoughts. My thought is, by the time we get around to doing events, which will probably be before you and I are still on the earth, we won't need that. I mean, the events are not coming quickly, so.
That's our fault, Mayor.
I agree with you, but it doesn't seem like we want to make money on events. We don't know what we want to do, but at any rate, there will be parking before we get around to full-blown events. And I just believe that, without question, use the park for park things. And if people have to pay $5 across the street or wherever that is, so be it. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, and that's, you said that's definitely not to scale, because I know it's more than 50 feet from
No,
that drive to
no
that
way.
fence.
Right.
Yeah,
About half of that's for
about half of it,
hangers.
right.
Okay, any other thoughts with the public? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve dog park and Waterfront Park.
In, maybe in current location, so we don't have.
In current location.
Do I have a second? Nobody wants to go. I'd second it, but I'd probably lose anyway. Okay, so we don't want a dog park is what we're saying?
I don't think it's, if we can't put it in another location, then,
You mean in this park?
I mean, you know, we've been told we can't put it to the south, which would be the only place I think that I would
You'd have to
consider it.
fill that whole area back there.
You can't do
anything in
There's only, that's the only place you could fill it. I mean, put it.
It's really low.
Yeah.
Well, the south side's low.
Yeah.
It
I
runs
mean,
into the mangroves, and like I said, you can see the high water mark back there.
Yeah, I mean, this is only half, but if nobody wants it, that's.
My hopes were that we could do events in the park, and my concern now, and it was brought out here, is the parking. And if that's gonna interfere with the parking, which in turn is gonna interfere with the events, then, if you can't move it, then that's my major concern, because I think events would be nice for the city. And
You're talking, what is, the
It's
project?
50 by 60. It's
50
not-
by 60.
Yeah,
So
it's
you're
not-
not talking about very many parking places. 50 by 60, that's 1,100 square feet. Can you do that math, Jim? We're talking,
Look,
Uh,
remember now,
not
council
much.
approved
20, 30.
dogs on a leash in Waterfront Park.
on a leash.
On leash.
Right.
Dogs, and there'll be citations issued for any, and we have issued citations for anyone running a dog off a leash. So what some of these people had said, they wanted a location in the Waterfront Park. Like, no, we offered them the one that's here, and it's built here, and it's used, heavy utilization here. They wanted it here. So that's why we came to council, that's why we had the pre-approval. Cost is approximately $8,000, which is budgeted, it's up to council if they want it or not.
Excuse me, Vince, it would
Yes,
be
sir.
possible maybe to actually go out there and just stake off the actual size, not this, because this is way out of scale. That
Sure.
50 by 60. and
Absolutely.
stake that
We're
off
more
so
than happy to
council
do
can maybe
that.
get a better idea of what we're compromising for loss of parking.
Sure, we'll
Because you
put
gotta
stakes in.
remember-
Bill, do you have an answer?
A normal
That's less than-
90-degree parking is 62 feet space to space. We're 2 feet wider, so it goes 60 feet. And the parking spaces are 10 feet wide. You do the math, there's 10 parking spaces
10
there.
parking
10 parking
Yeah.
spaces. This is less than a 1/15 of an acre.
So we're not looking at a major impact on our.
Right, and that, because that's not the scale. If that were to scale, that would, it's,
Yeah, it
wouldn't
looks
see
pretty
it.
big, but.
So
my
thi-
point was if we wanted to stake it out so everybody could actually get a visual on what we're talking about, maybe it's easier to understand that.
It's probably
Let me tell
less
you
than the
something.
size of this room. that we're-
It's somewhere around this size.
It's
right?
probably less than the size of the room that you're in.
So it's gonna be right up in that corner by Sandy's old location.
house.
Correct.
Yeah.
You think anybody would wanna live in that house with all those dogs barking?
Nobody's there right now.
Pardon?
Let them move in after it's there.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when you buy
I
a
can
house next
speak
to
when
the
I get,
airport.
not now, when we're finished, I'll call you. Now, so are you satisfied with the,
I just think like, I think because the scale is so out of touch, 10 parking spots, I don't think are make or break an event in the park.
No, not 10. I mean, you just can't tell from this.
Well, it's
That's-
10 parking spots, that's what
Yeah, yeah, no, I
you're
get
gonna
it,
lose.
yeah.
So, I mean, if we have Woodstock, you're still gonna have Woodstock.
Well, that would be the whole city.
Just less than
Well,
10.
before we get to Woodstock, there's a motion on the table, you need a second, then you can ask that.
I have a, well, I
He
don't.
has a motion to do it, you get a
We
second.
have a
then you
motion,
put
do
out
we
the
have a
public.
second? Make a lot of dog owners happy.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Now we
Second guy tonight.
can go to public, go ahead.
Second fiddle.
And just for the parliamentary procedure, if you second it just for discussion, you can make comments against the motion. But if you second it like you just did, then you can't argue against it.
I'm not planning on
I'm
it.
just telling you for going forward, it makes a difference, okay? Just seconding something.
My brain won't work that way.
I'm just
I
trying to be
cannot
helpful.
second and then argue against it. I'm sorry, I cannot do
You can
that.
second for
He's
discussion.
conflicted, he's a
You
dog
have
owner.
to be, you have to be a Republican.
Mrs. Spalding.
You must be a
Sandra
Republican.
Spalding, 8612 Green Street. Yes, I live next door to the park. Drove my dogs crazy with the dogs running around that area. But in my mind, wouldn't it be better to put the dog park on the other side? Because there's no houses there? We're putting it there, not only the house where I lived in, but you got neighbors across the street too. Where the other side now, don't we have where they can put a boat in, a little ramp on that side?
No, the areas that you're talking about is almost all wetlands. We can't
No,
use it. Out in the
I-
far, even the far side, okay, just the topography. And I could tell you this, the dog park here is utilized extensively, and I don't know of any problems with respect to noise. Truly, the dogs get in there, they're happy, they run around, but there's no real noise. Am I wrong, staff? Do you recognize, we've had no problems, no really problems with the dog park.
Well, to me personally, being I live so close and the neighbors across the street and everything, I would suggest there's gotta be another place. You have the path going up and around, right? What about inside a little bit more, right there next to the path? 7-point-something acres, you could find another 50-foot somewhere else. Plus, then you won't see it from the street. And then houses won't be able to look in and see all this, or get an odor from it later on, who knows, whatever it is. But at least that way, the dogs will have a park, people have the privacy, you got your parking where you want it, it's a win-win situation. Look into it, thank you.
Lane Lee, 5713 Berlin. My question is, I understand that area to the south is, partially wet. Could we take and fill to, an area large enough for the dog park?
I don't think you can
I
fill
doubt,
it.
we
Mr.
have
Lee,
reg-
I doubt very much that we'll get permission to be able to do that.
Well, could we ask? We have,
I
we
think
have,
that's considered part wetland.
Yes, it is.
there, and you
If
can't-
if you'll recall, from that section to the left of the entrance, all the way up that slope hill, back in around 2000, the city put an extensive amount of plants in there, specifically at the requirements of FCT. They're all specialty plants that run in there, along with the regular Florida growth there.
yeah, but I don't
And
think you're
that's-
talking about going back that far. You maybe make the park a little bit longer, but not quite as wide, so
It's just, there is a deep slope coming, in fact, there's benches there where you can sit on the benches and look down the deep slope. Additional trimming will even give you more of a view, but it's a deep slope that goes right down. And that leads to the wetland that he's talking, the wet material that he's talking about.
I'm talking about right next to the fence at the road.
Correct. Immediately to the left of the road is what we're talking about.
It gets wet there, it's low.
I don't think, I think if this wasn't skewing your vision, that, it's gonna be a very much smaller area than what it is. Bill, approximately how much could we, if you were doing that to scale, would you say that? Can you give us a?
50%.
50% only?
Probably 50%. I apologize for drawing it incorrectly. That's-
Okay.
It was just for graphics, just to show you the
So,
location, not, I
if
didn't
you
realize we were
moved
getting
it
into the.
over, if you cut a line east to west, it would be buffered away from the one house that's there. And there's a lot of people that would like to have that.
So the dogs get shade and the handicapped kids don't.
Do what?
The dogs will get shade and the handicapped kids don't.
No,
Not the way I'm looking at it. Maybe you're looking at a different map.
How far to the west, Bill, can we, if we narrowed it more, how far west could we go?
Well, it depends upon our approval from the FTC, but let me say this, when we were measuring out, one day we were out there and it was 150 feet approximately from the driveway you see there, which is actually the handicap walkway, back to the wrought iron fence. So this is only 50 feet, so you see there would be 100 feet from the back.
It's actually a third then, at a
That's
scale.
correct.
It's
It
only
would be
just-
100 feet from there back to the fence, which abuts Sandy's old house. You with me? So it's quite a distance away from, and we could move it, I'm assuming, somewhat
Yeah.
Yes.
limited.
Even if you angled it
East-west.
some, Bill, then you could angle away from the residents. I trust you could do that. Okay. We have a I don't even know if we have a motion.
We have a motion and a second.
And what was the motion?
Motion to put it on.
To put on the park.
Absolutely.
Motion and a second. Any more speakers? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
3-2, we're becoming split. All right. Okay, we have now an ordinance, Mr. Matthew will take over.
This will be the first reading of ordinance 18664 regarding the charter referendum. I've communicated with the supervisor of elections. Just so everybody knows, the election date has been set for the spring at all the municipalities now of April 8th, 2019. If anybody was curious, supervisor of elections is good with our language. April 9th, yes, I misspoke, it's April 9th. And I'll read the, unless there's any questions. First reading by title only of ordinance number 18-664, an ordinance submitting to the electors of the city of Port Richey a proposed amendment to the city charter, amending section 3.04 regarding removal of the city manager by majority vote rather than a 4/5 vote, providing for a referendum date, providing the actual charter amendment language, providing for ballot language, providing for a ballot title, providing for technical changes, and providing severability and effective date. Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll do the next one, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, please, sir.
The next agenda item is the first reading of ordinance 18-665 regarding placing items on the agenda. We talked about that last meeting, I mean. First reading ordinance number 18-665, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Port Richey, State of Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, City Council, Division 3, Meetings, Section 2-80, Agenda, and 2-85, Order of Business, and providing for severability, inclusion in code, and effective date. Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and we are down to boards and committees. Is that on this agenda?
I assume that no one has any objection to this final list on the committee members. Does anyone have anyone else that would like to be a member of one of the committees?
One thing I never do.
No?
I don't have any, but
So the committees as they stand is all right with the rest of the council? Okay.
Do we need a motion to approve
Yeah,
that, Jim, or
I'd like a motion, just a motion to approve that these are the members.
current?
You good with that, Council?
Motion to approve that these are the current members of our council, our boards and committee members.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That would be about it, I believe.
I have one thing on the old business. I understand that we have made provisions for the grants that we are going to have available for the people in the city for their building problems.
Yes.
Do we have the brochure, or do we have something that we can get our hands on?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. It's been a very long day.
There's a reason I dress this way.
Sorry, I apologize. It's been a very long day. We plan to, in fact, we had several meetings today concerning that issue. It will be up and posted on our website. There will be brochures that will be handed out. If anybody wants them, we've already prepared those brochures on October 1st.
So we're just waiting for the printing?
No, the program starts October 1st.
Okay.
It'll be up on the net where anyone can pull down a copy of the applications to fill out.
There already?
Yeah, not that you're,
Yeah.
Mr. Lupo, but it's been there for several weeks, the actual program. The application's gonna be posted by.
Correct.
There was also a question from a citizen regarding that we did not approve it at our last CRA meeting, and I didn't follow that, so. Did anybody get that?
Does this, yes, Jim?
Did we approve it? You approved the
We
budget.
did.
Yeah.
It's
We
in the
approved it
budget.
in the
You-
In the
So
budget.
I thought so.
You approved, when you approved the CRA budget, the project was there.
That was
Okay.
included in it.
Right, good.
So the first applications will be available. People will be able to pull up the applications. They can come in, present the applications. We'll accept complete applications beginning October 1st.
Okay, can we see the parameters that we've got set up for these people? Because I haven't seen any of them.
You can get your copy, Jocelyn?
We can print you out a copy, but the handbook has been available on the website since the newsletter went out. We posted it on the city website, so people
Oh.
could take a look. We didn't post the application yet, but the handbook is
But
there.
the handbook is on the
Yes.
website now?
Mhm.
It has
Okay.
been, yeah, sure.
All right. Excellent, that's great. Well, all right. Motion to adjourn.
Oh, wait, Mr. Lee had his hand up.
Oh,
Do you want to hear
sorry.
from him before we leave?
Yeah, we actually went through,
I just didn't know what.
Blaine Lee, 5713 Berlin. I understand when you approved the budget, you approved the grant program, but I don't believe council approved how the grant program was going to be administered.
No.
That's true, we didn't. That's what I was interested in, getting the information for that. Did we need to approve that?
We set the parameters, though. So many people were gonna be a
Yeah.
match, and so many
If,
people under.
if you will recall, we came before council, we laid out the basics of the program. Council wanted to make some alterations to it. We made a division with respect to the $50,000, 25 above the income limits, 25,000 unmatched below the incomes. We made all of those adjustments, came back and spoke to council, and council acquiesced to that operation. All we have been doing is simply putting the nuts and bolts, the paperwork together to implement that program. The actual brochure of what is covered, what is not covered has been on the website. We have delayed putting the actual application up until October 1st, when we were going to implement the program. It'll be there, people will apply, fill out the application, come in, it'll be time and date stamped, be reviewed, and we'll move forward with it.
That raises a question, now that Mr. Lee's brought this forward. I tried to do some research last week, and I used to be able to just kind of go into our website, go back into meetings even 2-3 years ago. I cannot find them. The only ones that are current are the ones I can find on the YouTube page. Is there have we lost that data? Where can we send people to go find those recordings again?
All of the council meetings are on our YouTube channel. Unfortunately, when Joomla, which was the website developer that we were using, they locked up our old website. I can't access anything off of it. I can't even log into it. So we had to start all over again with a brand new website. So I've got the videos that we've had, the meetings that we've had since are posted on there, but all the ones from years past, they're,
So all that data is lost. If someone wants to research, how do they go about it now?
just going onto our YouTube channel. All of our council meetings are on there.
The current ones?
The old ones?
The old ones are also on there.
Oh, okay.
The
So
old
we
ones
have
too?
access.
The new ones too.
Okay.
Yep, they're there.
We have to keep it.
In other words, we can have a disc of any meeting.
Yeah.
We haven't lost.
Yeah, we have. to
We've done
keep-
that,
We
yes.
have to keep tapes of meetings for a certain amount of
Yeah.
time. We have to have that. It's a
Yeah.
public record.
It used to be easier because you could type in a keyword and it would pull up every meeting that keyword was mentioned at. So it made it really handy for doing research, and if Mr. Lee had a question, he could normally have gone back and looked at that.
But,
We missed that function too, and we're gonna look into seeing if we can add it back, because it was a helpful tool for us as well as staff. So it will take us some time to figure it out and possibly load all those videos up, but we're gonna look into it.
Yeah, yeah.
well, do we still have to pay $10 a month to not have ads?
Just you,
Okay.
just you have to pay.
Take it out of my pay.
Mr. Lee?
All right.
Second.
Wait.
Well, my main question was, I don't think council ever got any copy of the parameters.
They established the parameters.
Pardon?
They established the parameters.
I don't think they did. And I don't think you could ask any one of them what the parameters are.
We did,
I mean,
we did have
what
the
is the- what is
50,000.
it- Who can, as far as and how is it established, who can apply for a 100%
Non-reimbursed one, and one that's
non-reimbursed grant,
reimbursed?
and who gets a 50/50 grant?
It depends on the
Income at this point.
income.
But
They
that
said
was never,
incomes.
that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
never approved.
So-
And if it was, I'd like to see it in print. Because I've, you know, and I went into, back to the clerk's office, maybe a month ago or less, and asked them for a copy of the application for the grant program.
Doesn't
And she-
exist.
And she told me, we can't hand them out because the program was never approved at a CRA meeting.
It's not.
I knew it was his email that I was
It was his
referring to
email,
earlier,
yeah,
yeah.
I know.
And there's no CRA meeting scheduled that I can see.
Well, if I'm correct, we've already approved that. I do remember that it would, before I responded to you, it is, lower income is 1,000. There's I don't know the exact,
Well,
cutoff.
who knows what that number is? Don't you think that
I bet you she does.
you as council members should have voted on that?
Well, we voted on,
How will it be dispersed?
How will
Right.
be dispersed in median income?
You voted
Median
that half
income.
would be,
Above the
Not-
median,
and
median,
half would be, but
Below.
you never voted on where that number is.
but the median incomes is a set.
well, that is
It's at
the medium
Where's that
in,
number?
It's
by
at
this-
35.
Right.
That income, that limit is set by Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Right, and that's our break.
Yes, sir.
Above and below.
Yes, sir.
right.
And the we can talk about the documentation required to prove
Proves
built
your median,
above or
right.
below. Below that number, with proper documentation,
is
it
a-
is a
What number?
non-matching. Above that number, it is matching.
Okay, so I'm pretty clear on it
Yep.
at this point.
Is there a way we can find that meeting so he can watch it?
It was on May 8th.
May 8th this year. Can you get to YouTube, Mr. Lee? All right. Where were we with this motion to adjourn?
I think we're,
I second it.
that's no question, we're done.
Aye. Let's go home.